we finished our first section. Our focus was on stories. Our objective is to try and figure out what would it take for us to help build an engine that would play a game, especially a game like Scrabble. And within that, we looked at specific stories, and the stories that we're interested in. One of the stories that is of special interest is finding a valid word, which involves us to search in a dictionary. That's one word. We looked at another story, which was word generation, and we looked at the most inefficient, the most incorrect, the most horrible way of generating words, and using the most horrible of all tools, which is Excel. So we did that. Then there are additional stories, right? There's a story around word scoring. There's a story around placement. A third story that I'd like to try and cover today is board eval. Board evaluation is essentially answers a different question, and that different question is who is winning, and how does playing a specific move change the probability of winning or losing. Then there are rules and heuristics. If you're an AI engine, what are the things that you need to remember to win at Scrabble? So one of the things that we speak about is the ability of a move to close or open the board. Close the board for our opponents, open the board for us. Then there is tree search, which is sort of pseudo-linked to board evaluation, and that is a focus on how do we sort of look ahead and see what a specific move does in terms of opening up possibilities for us to play future move. So the first case that I want to look at, I'm going to take a look at all three of them. I'm going to look at lexicon, which is how do you find a valid word. We've already done this, so we're not going to spend time on this. Not going to do word scoring, or at least not in depth. Not going to do placement. I also want to look at board eval, right? So for today, I think one is lexicon, how do you find the right word, and second is board eval, and third, if we have time, is going to be tree search. Now, all three of these themes are also important because your assigned readings and your videos include two very important elements. On the video side, you've got AlphaGo and Isomorphic Lab, with both use language as a tool to figure out how to solve a very interesting problem, which is in AlphaGo's case, that problem is how do you win and go. In Isomorphic's lab case, it's how do you sort of model proteins. Now, the language around isomorphic labs and the video that you see, the science behind that is covered in the language of a virus. To understand the language of a virus, you also have to read the associated readings in your reading pack that deal with the theme of is language a virus, and what kind of philosophical question does that raise in your thinking and in your mindset. Example I'm going to use I'm going to look at two separate examples, and these are both of interest to us. The first example is of the Oxford Dictionary, right? So this is the Oxford Dictionary. It's not a valid Scrabble dictionary, but in this specific case, this actually has a list of words. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep all of them in caps so that we can pick this up. Control insert, copy karne se, and then it up, and then what I want to do is I want to put it here, and then I want to sort it. So इसको paste कर दें, ये paste हो गया, और फिर इसको sort कर लें. So then it's a sorted list, and I'm sorting it for a specific reason, but we'll talk about what that reason is also. A to Z. There we go. So now the list is sorted, right? So now it has a list of sorted valid words from the Oxford Dictionary perspective that go all the way from A to Z. And I think the total number of words we have are, about 9,000 words. Roughly speaking, about 9,000 words. So now question. Let's say in my word generation wisdom, the word that I have generated is Zoom. So एक word है मेरे पास Zoom और X-ray. Two words in it. So I don't know whether these are valid words, right? So we're assuming. The question that I'm asking is, so I have an actor, which is validator. What's the job that the validator does? It validates a given word. What's the input? The input is the word. What's the output? The output is whether this word is a valid word or not. So हम इसको simple कर सकते हैं. If it's valid, it's 1. If it's invalid, it's 0. What is the process that this validator follows? What is the structure of the function? Remember जब हमने function की बात की थी, behavior की बात की थी, हमने कहा था कि it's input output process. So input the word है, output is 1 or 0. What is the process? The process is it takes that word and it searches for this word in this specific dictionary, which is a sorted dictionary. So assume करें कि आप एक linear search इस्तेमाल करें, right? And linear search would be I'm going to start by saying, so I'm going to take zoom and then we'll compare zoom with the first word. Is this zoom? No. Is this zoom? No. Is this zoom? No. Is this zoom? No. Is this? इन तीनों में कोई भी zoom नहीं है. And then I'll walk through the entire list from top to bottom till I get all the way till the end. I have found zoom. 9,120 words and zoom का जो reference है वो है 9117. So now think in terms of what is involved in this specific exercise. What is involved? ये जब हमने काम किया है इस पूरे प्रोसेस के अंदर क्या क्या स्टेप्स थे. तो पहला स्टेप क्या था हमारे पास? पहला स्टेप था get word. Get word, let's assume that get word takes 1 second. Then compare word with current word. That's the second step. So ये पहला स्टेप हो गया, दूसरा स्टेप हो गया. Compare word, let's also assume that compare word also takes 1 second, right? So compare word would be what? Compare word would be 1 second, would be compare zoom with A. This takes 1 second. Compare zoom with Abalone, abandon, abducted, abilities, ability, able, abnormal, right? These are all comparisons. Let's assume each comparison takes 1 second. How many comparisons does it take in total? कितने comparison लगे थे हमें zoom पे पहुंचने के लिए till we got to zoom? Do we have a sense? 9117. So how many comparison will it take you to get to zoom? So 9117. 9000 सेकेंड लगेंगे आपको to get to zoom. अच्छा, अब हम seconds क्यों इस्तेमाल करें? Because our take is that we're using second as a unit of time. We've already emphasized this and mentioned this earlier in our conversation in our first week, that the relevant unit of time in our world, in the computer's world, in the CPU world, is a clock cycle. So let's assume each search, each comparison is a clock cycle. So अब इसमें क्या होता है? Compare word is 1 second, right? But then there is also another problem, and that problem is a bigger problem for us is fetch next word. How long does that take? That also takes a second. How many words do we fetch? 9117. So even though we say कि एक comparison might take 1 second and that might take 9,000, but it's not just one comparison, it's also the fetching the next word, right? Which means that total number of comparisons, that operations that we're doing are about 18,000 operations for a word which is at the end. So compare this to a different word, and let's say that word is abducted. Abducted में कितनी देर लगेगी आपको? 3 comparisons and 3 fetches, or 2 fetches. 3 fetches actually, yeah, 3 fetches. यहाँ पे 6 seconds लगेंगे. So how does this math work? As in, on average, where is a word likely to be? Is it likely to be in the beginning? It's supposed to be in the end? Is it supposed to be in the middle? What do you think is going to be the average search time when you do a simple, straightforward linear search in the dictionary, where the objective is to get to a sense of whether the word that you have is a valid word or not? Is there a way to do faster search? If you just do linear search, it doesn't make sense. Is there a way to do faster search? And if you do faster search, what would that search look like? You could index the dictionary on SSRite. You could start in the middle. So there are multiple tools and techniques that we can use that can get us to a fast result. What if I switch the dictionary to a different dictionary, which is the Collins dictionary, right? And the Collins dictionary, surprise, surprise, has 279,000 words. 279,000 words. इसमें कितनी देर लगेगी? So जब आपका 9,000 वाला challenge था, right? This was 9,000 because you had 9,000 words. What happened when you have 279,499 words? ये है आपके पास. अब क्या होगा? अब कितनी देर लगेगी आपको? Do you understand the complexity of the challenge? So even if you did binary on this, right? So binary search की approach we'll discuss, I think, maybe in the discussion on efficiency. But even with binary, it still won't be instant. It'll be a lot faster, but it won't be instant. Does anybody have a sense of how long it'll take to search through 280,000 words using binary? No, so think about this. This is again, think of this as an assessment question. The question that we now asked is, it's not just dictionary search. For the perspective of computational thinking, this is search. Search is of interest to us because just like we search for a valid word, what were we doing? We were searching for a valid word. Just like we search for a valid word, we also search for valid solutions. And where do we search for valid solutions? We don't search for valid solutions in a dictionary. We search for valid solutions in a solution space. And what defines a solution space? The solution space is defined by our understanding of the problem space. So if we don't understand the problem space, we can't map the effective solution space. And if we don't have an effective sense of the problem space or effective sense of the solution space, then we can't jump, we can't build a bridge between the two. Search is not just important for dictionary search. Search is not just important for Scrabble. Search is generally a really important challenge at a tangible physical level when we're searching a dictionary, but also at a philosophical level when we're looking at finding a solution in the solution space based on our understanding of the problem space. So I've shown you two things, right? I've shown you an inefficient way of generating a word, and I've shown you an inefficient way of searching a dictionary. The question, the statement, the challenge that you have to think about is, are there more efficient ways? Now keep this discussion, this context around efficiency in your mind when you do the readings for E. coli versus Linux and Language is a Virus and the Language of a Virus papers. When you read those papers, keep this discussion around efficiency. How did they do this? Was this the most efficient way? Is this the most efficient mapping of the solution space that they could have found based on their understanding of the problem domain? This is actually an exam question, actually an assessment question from a couple of years ago. Consider the Scrabble board and the tiles available to you on your slate. What is the highest scoring word and placement combination that you can use to get the highest score on the board for a valid word beginning with the letter P? When you phrase a question and I give you this slate and I ask you, generate all the possible words that begin with the letter P, or in this specific case with the letter M, what happens in your head when you try and solve for it? What is the process that you go through? How do you go from A to B? What is the process that you follow that allows you to generate all possible? कैसे करोगे generate? हमने खुद देखा ना, we just saw it ourselves, right? What did we see? We saw that generating it in Excel is really, really hard. So what else can you do? Why is this a complex challenge? The pattern of the questions are the same, but the placement of the tiles on the board and the selection of tiles on your slate is where the underlying complexity comes from. Is this an easy problem to solve or is this a hard problem to solve? And अगर मैं आपको ये दे भी दूँ, for example, so मैं ये slide में आज upload कर देता हूँ. You actually have these templates and these questions with you. If you actually have access to these questions and these slides, do you think that's enough preparation for taking this type of a question on Saturday or Sunday? It's not about question about whether your dictionary or vocabulary needs more. You have to understand the process. What is the word generation process? You actually have to find an efficient word generation process that can get you the list of valid words and allow you to compare it against a dictionary. Dictionary आपके पास मौजूद है ना? जो Excel में आपको मैंने dictionary दी मौजूद है, आप उसमें lookup कर लें. Once you have the word, then you can compare it. How do I answer this question? What is it that I have to do to answer this question in how much time? In about 2 minutes. So then what we've really done is, let me hide this. What we've really done is, what we're saying is, think about this process, right? What is the process? The process is, first step in the process is generate all possible letter combinations. Second step is filter the words. Third step is validate the words. Fourth step is store the words. And then take all the possible valid combinations and compare them against a shared dictionary. Validate against a word bank. So आपने मुझसे पूछा ना, what has this got to do with computational thinking? ये context है. इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट के अगेंस्ट आप क्या प्रोसेस इस्तेमाल करेंगे दैट कैन हेल्प यू सॉल्व दिस क्वेश्चन इन अंडर 2 minutes. If I was building a game AI, if I was building a game engine, in that game engine for Scrabble, एक बड़ा element is word, एक बड़ा element is search, एक बड़ा element is placement, एक बड़ा element is strategy. And that brings us to Scrabble board eval.